Hello and welcome to Scientifically Speaking. Today we are looking at biblical words that are fulfilled and explained by science. Now, since God sent me visions back in 2014, I've been putting everything I saw in the visions down on paper. I have many videos confirming the things that I'd said against the things in science that have come together and proven to be true. Now, my very first video was about a universal voltage drop and what happens to everything when energy within our solar system and universe decreases. And I've said that over the past 3 generations of men, biblically speaking, the power level of the planet has gone down. And on several videos, I've said what would happen to people when the energy level goes down, when the sun goes micronova, and when we are hit by massive energy bursts. Now, several people have been trying to explain what will happen during this micronova when the sun goes black as sackcloth and the sun turns red. So let's have a look at what suspicious observers think, and then we're going to have a look at the Bible and see what God says. But basically, I said that exactly what this man's going to say. I said this about 10 years ago in my first video. So anyway, let's get to the video where we find out what will happen to biological thinking on this planet when there is an energy decrease.
Hello again, Ralph. So the world going crazy. Is this due to solar maximum or the shift, or would we see calmer world when the sun starts to calm back down? If I missed that video, I shall research more. It's everything. So from the human side of things, the economics, the political, the cultural, the messaging, the propaganda, the fake disasters that they're putting on us, it's a mega squeeze. And then on top of all of that, Earth's magnetic field weakening is allowing our brains to take a larger electromagnetic bombardment from space, which has 2 main effects. 1, reduced efficiency in the hippocampus processes, which means lower cognition, aka we get dumber, and an overexcitement of the locus ceruleus, which amplifies panic, fear, anxiety responses, emotional instability. And so we're getting dumber and more emotionally unstable, all while all this human stuff is going on. I hope that answers your question, and thank you for the support, Ralph. Good to see you.
So what we have is scientific consensus that if our field changes, we get scared, dumb, violent, all kinds of nasty things that I've spoken of and said in the past. Now, do we find this anywhere in the Bible? Well, of course we do. In the last 6,000-year-old disaster. So here we are after the flood. Now, you've got to remember that water is diamagnetic, which means it's repulsed by a magnetic field. And if our magnetic field is reduced due to electrical content being higher, which is what happens with a magnet, you increase the intensity of the electric and the field crushes down and becomes smaller. So as the Earth field becomes more electrical due to energy bombardment by a supernova or a micronova or a massive sun flare, what you're going to find is that the water is forced out of the innards of the planet because it's diamagnetic and so is repulsed by a magnetic field. So as the field comes down, once the electricity reaches a certain point, the field will start to repulse water from underneath the ground, and that's where the flood came from. It came from being over-electrified and the field actually pushing water out from underneath the ground instead of from the surface to the ionosphere, which is why we have an atmosphere. So what did the Lord say to Noah after the flood? So in Genesis 9 we read, "Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and on all the birds in the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground and on all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, now I give you everything. Now, I'd said in my video that we used to eat green plants because the energy content of this food was higher and was able to sustain the bodies we had. After the flood, where the energy content of the atmosphere has now been reduced, it's a universal voltage drop based on a circuit system with no energy input because God has turned his back on us. So we are now living in a finite universe suffering from entropy, rather than an infinite universe that is continually regenerating. Ours is in entropy. So we find by science that when the field degrades, people will start suffering fear and anxiety. And what does it say here? The fear and dread of you will fall on all the animals. So the animals weren't afraid of us before the flood. Now they're terrified because it's the lowering of the signal that we all live in. Energy comes from outside. So we can see here and talk about the Schumann resonance, that the Schumann resonance is what is responsible for upholding your DNA and keeping it where it's supposed to be. So if that Schumann frequency changes massively, a reorganization and activation of DNA will occur. But basically it's saying the brains don't change, but the activation of the brain will change and different parts of the brain will be stimulated. And here we see the fear and dread in all animals. This is due to the changed frequency, which means they now suffer fear and dread of the unknown because they don't have the brain power to understand what we are. So again, science has completely confirmed the fact that A, you get dumber and scared when the field changes, and the Bible says fear and dread will overcome all the animals. And then you have the biblical confirmation that there was a worldwide disaster, because it speaks of the effects of this disaster, and the effects from science that we say what's going to happen is what happened before and after the flood. The Schumann frequency will change. Every frequency will change. And so men, leading up to this, will suffer from fear and dread. So scientifically it is now proven that A, the world was destroyed by a flood, and B, God knew what would happen when the frequencies we live in are lowered. You see, that's why we've gone from a golden age down to an entropy age. That's why we were smarter in the past, because energy levels were higher. So the whole universe has gone from high energy to low energy, which basically is going from holy to depraved. And that's what happens to man the further along time we get, as energy decreases and speeds up. Men get more depraved. The higher the energy, the more holy you are. You don't think about sex, drugs and rock and roll. You just think about how amazing God is to have had mercy on you and how can you please him? Tell me what to do, Lord. That's how you feel when you're on the spirit. That's why I don't like the movie Nefarious, where the demon talks about how he has a different will and we're all supposed to worship the Lord, and if we don't, it's forced worship. Having been under the Spirit of the Lord, I did exclaim to myself that I don't think about sex. I don't think about drugs and rock and roll and all the things that come with the world. All it made me want to do was throw that crown into the centre, shouting, I'm not worthy. Because when you get close to God, you are going to feel joy. You don't need to be happy about anything. The feeling that will overcome you is pure joy the closer you get to God, which is why they all stand around throwing their crowns in, shouting, we're not worthy. 100,000 angels, or is it 1 million? All bowing down in praise. This is not forced. It's because you cannot believe that the Lord would make you feel so amazing for no reason. Just for wanting to share the joy of life. That's why they call him the happy God. You cannot be full of energy and be unhappy on a continuous level. So from the beginning of the universe, which was holy, it is now dropped in power, and all that is left is depravity, which is why God is coming to destroy it and start the new covenant and the new kingdom. But in Nefarious, the demon, obviously the demon again is lying within a movie. They all make out they're hard done by. You would have to leave God's presence in some way to have a will of your own. To say, I don't want to do this. I want to do these thoughts instead. And the thoughts in the Nefarious movie are that there is some kind of a way that you can do all these things and still live forever. Which, of course, is a lie and impossible due to the depravity that would be forced upon all the other citizens by the elites. That's the system, is us in charge, you do all the work. And that's what they portray as being a workable solution for life, which, of course, following God's way, that's a lie. So no, they didn't stop and follow themselves because God was bad or his ways were forced. It's because they left the presence of God and decided to have a will of their own, which came from envy of us being made as his children and going from number 2 to being a slave to the children. He was angry that he hadn't been rewarded, even though he was the most beautiful angel within heaven next to the Lord. So this is greed and envy, which turns into spite and hatred. So the Nefarious movie is a lie within a lie. Lots of things said about how you can be infested by demons definitely happens piece by piece till they inhabit your thoughts and words. Basically like, how people attack me. You have to have some very base thoughts to do the things that some people do to me in video or in word. Yeah, that's the base level of depravity. So we are in an energetic universe that is losing its energy and is now starting to be disruptive and excuse me, and unstable. And so when the galactic wave does hit us and the sun outbursts, people will be at madness by this point. Not pure madness, but more war and hate than you've ever seen. Tribulations is just beginning. These are precursors to it all. What it all comes down to is fear and dread arrive when energy within goes down. Because everybody fears death. Nobody fears death when they're fully healthy and full of muscles and feeling fantastic. It's only when you start to become depraved and sick that you think about it. Well, that's it for today. Biblical words confirmed by science, and science confirmed by biblical words. The biblical words prove there was some kind of shift on this planet and some kind of magnetic excursion that caused water to be diamagnetically forced out of the ground to flood the whole planet. And this states you'll have fear and dread. So it's a true story, and it says you're going to get fear and dread. And now here we are, seeing fear and dread arrive while we're waiting for the energy drop and the micronova. So yeah, biblical words prove science, and science proves biblical words. Thanks very much. My name is Lee. I follow the Christ, and I'm showing you everything that's coming. The Lord showed me visions of what was coming. I've tried to put it all on paper and explain exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Thanks a lot.